February 9, 2004, 21-year-old nursing student Maura Murray crashes her car on a hairpin bend in Haverhill, New Hampshire. She has not been seen or heard from since that night. In this video, we look at some of the facts and theories surrounding this case, including the ground-penetrating radar and cadaver dog searches that have been undertaken to find Maura. An old supervisor of Maura's sheds light on Maura's state of mind only days before she would go missing. And is this Maura Murray? A video surfaces online showing a woman who shares alarming resemblances with Maura. All that and much more on this episode of the Maura Murray case, Facts and Theories. Through the help of companies offering to work for free and the Maura Murray GoFundMe page, extensive ground-penetrating radar or GPR searches and cadaver dog searches have been undertaken to help find Maura Murray. These searches began in 2018 and are ongoing. The ground-penetrating radar helps to locate anomalies under the ground. In other words, it can detect an object or a shape that is under the ground. That area can then be dug up, soil samples can then be taken, and the investigation can continue. So when they scan the ground with the GPR, they might see a shape or just what is known as an anomaly underneath the ground. In other words, it could be anything. It could just be a piece of cardboard or an old piece of tin or something like that, but it does show you what's under the ground. So of course this technology is very handy when looking for, say for example, Maura's cell phone, which has never been found to this day, or a piece of Maura's clothing or something like that. Cadaver dog searches have also been undertaken as well as a GPR. Searches have been undertaken around the crash site, at the A-frame house, and also they have searched Rick Forcier's house as well. So for those of you who don't know who Rick Forcier is, at the time of Maura's disappearance, he didn't want the police coming onto his property. Now that's fair enough. He might not like police. Maybe he had some pot growing in the back or something like that. Or maybe he just didn't want him on his property. That's fair enough. Many people could have that opinion. So this is Rick Forcier's house in relation to the crash site where Maura went missing that night. So everyone who lived around the area of the crash site was of course questioned. But the funny thing with Rick Forcier is when he was questioned the first time, he was asked if he knew anything or saw anything, and he was like, no, he didn't see anything at all. And then like 3 months later, he like told a neighbor or a friend or something like that, that yes, in fact, he was driving down the road a few miles up, and he had actually passed a woman that night who appeared to be running on the road. He said dodging traffic or something like that. So he was changing his stories all the time. At first he said he knew nothing, and then he mentioned to someone that he knew later on that he actually had seen a woman, possibly Maura. But he didn't want the police on his property at that time, back in 2004. So they've been able to go back now, use cadaver dogs, use a GPR, and search his property. Nothing's come up yet in any of these searches, but of course the searches are ongoing. So many people do suspect Rick Forcier may know something about it, mainly just because I think of his strange behavior. On the Oxygen documentary, The Disappearance of Maura Murray, he was supposed to appear on the show, but then when Maggie and Art, the host of the show, went to meet Forcier, he like drove away or something like that and wouldn't even meet them or talk to them. So he has displayed some real strange behavior. And there are members of the law enforcement who do suspect him strongly. They don't like the guy and they think he's got something to hide. Personally, I'm not saying whether this guy knows anything about what happened to Maura or not, but there is only one thing for sure that we can all agree on, that he has changed his story a couple times, saying he knew nothing about what happened to Maura, and then a few months later saying that yes, indeed, he had possibly seen Maura. He's moved away from the area. He does have a YouTube channel. If you check it out under Rick Forcier, he like writes songs, and he seems like a pretty eccentric character, but does that mean he had anything to do with Maura's disappearance? Well, not necessarily. You would need more solid proof to say that he had anything to do with it. Maybe just a bit of a goofball. But as I say, they have done the GPR and the cadaver dog searches on his property, and those searches are ongoing. So as I say, there is a Maura Murray GoFundMe page, and a lot of the money raised there does go toward the GPR and cadaver dog searches. So obviously in these searches they're looking for any trace of Maura, as I mentioned before, maybe her cell phone, a piece of clothing, a backpack, or something like that, anything to go on, as there's just been no trace of Maura to date. So we wish the team well on these searches, and maybe something could be uncovered. So next up, we hear from Maura's old supervisor from UMass, Karen Mayotte. Now, she did an interview on the Missing Maura Murray podcast here on YouTube, and it was very revealing what she had to say. So Maura had a job at the security desk in Melville Hall at UMass, the university in which she was attending at the time. Now, bear in mind, this was Thursday night, February the 5th, just a few days before Maura would go missing. So as Karen came in that night, she states she encountered a very different Maura Murray. She says that Maura would not make eye contact with her, and she was just like staring off into space, and she was very concerned for her, and that this was very unlike Maura to be this way. So let's play the clip now.
Long story short, so I get to Melville, and I swipe in and I walk in, and like I'm always a very happy, cheery person, so I had a huge smile on my face to go check, see what's going on, to go visit it with her, like many other nights. But walking in, she wouldn't even like make eye contact with me. She was, when you walk in, the security, the desk, the receptionist desk area was like directly in front of you walking into Melville, and she was just like looking like past me. It was very weird. Because normally I wouldn't get that reaction from her, like going to visit with her. I'd usually just smile and say hi, walking in. But so I walk up, so she was like just staring out into space, like staring out the window. The window, those like large windows right next to the door. And so at that point I was totally concerned just from that primary reaction from her.
So some very interesting insights of Maura's state of mind and her behavior only a few days before she went missing. Remember, this of course was Thursday night, February the 5th, and Maura would go missing the following Monday on the 9th. And so we have another clip here from Karen where she talks about the now infamous "my sister" comment. Of course, Maura had just been on the phone to her older sister, Kathleen, who was having some troubles with sobriety at the time and having some alcohol issues. And so this phone call from Maura's sister Kathleen, by all accounts, came in at around 1 a.m. on the Friday morning, the 6th of February. And basically Kathleen had relayed to Maura at that stage how Kathleen herself had just gotten out of rehab, and her ex-husband, the first thing they were about to do was to drop by a liquor store and get hammered again. So after hearing this news, it was no wonder why Maura was so distraught after that call from her sister Kathleen. So let's hear again from Karen Mayotte, Maura's supervisor, as she goes more in depth on this incident.
When I was talking with her, I don't remember how long it took her for her to finally respond to me. I don't know if I was standing there for like 1 minute or like 5. I don't know how much quiet time was between us. But eventually she said, "My sister," because I don't know, like if I kept asking her like over and over, like what's going on, but it was definitely some awkward like time in between where she was just staring out the window, wouldn't even like engage with me. There's probably a fancy term with psychology. I don't know, but she wouldn't engage with me. But eventually, she just said, "My sister," and then she started crying. But it wasn't like a huge sob, but she was just like I would say like crying softly, crying softly, whatnot. And at that point, I just remember putting my arm around her and just saying, "What what can I do for you?" I don't know. I don't remember these exact words I said at this moment. I just remember with my sister. At one point, it was just awkward time, so I couldn't really, because she wouldn't tell me anything else except those words. I think she said "my sister" like twice, like that statement.
So Maura wasn't talking. She was despondent this night, just staring into space, and Karen was very concerned for her. So this is a very revealing interview from the Missing Maura Murray podcast here on YouTube. I'll put the link in the description to the full interview, so definitely check that out. So this does show us in depth Maura's state of mind only a few days before she went missing. And as we all know, it is those events, the days and weeks leading up to a person's disappearance, that are so important. And as this is only a few days before Maura disappeared, It just shows that everything was not right with her. Sure, that doesn't necessarily mean that she went up there to take her life, or she ran away to never come back. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Maybe it just means that she wanted that few days break just to get away. That may be all it could be. But it definitely does show that all was not 100% well with Maura, and that there was definitely some stuff going on behind the scenes with her. Does that have anything to do with where she is now, and with what ultimately happened to her? That's anyone's guess. So following on from Karen Mayott's encounter with Maura that night, she would eventually lead Maura back up to her dorm room. And here are some photos taken from Maura's dorm room. Now these were taken after Maura had gone missing. They went back and took some photos of her room. Now I gotta say, you don't get a whole lot from these photos, but it is very interesting nonetheless just to take a look at them. So going from left to right, you have a stuffed toy there hanging from a pipe, her stereo with a few CDs, her computer, and going below that, just her wardrobe with some coat hangers there, a card with her name on it, and then just the bags that were either unpacked or packed up. Of course, there's all the speculation with that. So it's, as I say, it's interesting nonetheless just to look at these photos of where Maura was staying. But, as I say, they don't really give any hints or clues as to what may have happened to Maura. Sombering, in a way you could say, as Maura would never return to this room. This is the way she left it. But I think it's cool that they chose to release these photos, and it's just interesting to see. It's just another part of the case. So here we are looking at some footage that has been circulating around the internet of a possible sighting of Maura Murray. Now as this video plays on, I will admit there are actually a couple of shots here that do resemble Maura a little bit. Now this video was supposedly taken sometime between 2015 and 2017, somewhere around that time. And also, you have the interesting note of the child in this video. This child has been rumored to be Maura Murray and Bill Rausch's child, of course, Maura's boyfriend at the time she went missing. Now, it is only a rumor that Maura was pregnant at the time she went missing in 2004. But this could all fit, and the kid would be the right age too, considering when this video was supposedly taken. So a couple things that stand out to me in this video, of course, the running shoes that she's wearing and the backpack she has on. Those are items that Maura would of course wear. And a couple of shots here at the end, I would say there is at least a slight resemblance to Maura Murray. So these are a couple of images I've taken from the video, tried to enhance them as best as I could. Obviously the quality here isn't all that great to begin with, so basically just took a bit of the brightness out of them just to try and define the picture a bit more. Now it has been mentioned before that Maura does have that common type of look, meaning that she could be easily mistaken for somebody else. So looking at these two pictures and the video footage that we have just viewed, the things that stood out there, she had the running shoes on, the backpack, the kid that would be around the right age. And looking at these two shots here, you would have to say Maura Murray, 12, 13 years on, she would look most probably something like this. However, I am not 100% certain of where this footage originally came from, who filmed it. I mean, someone obviously knows this person. Why haven't they come forward and stuff like that? But is it Maura Murray? Well, I'm definitely not convinced that it is her. I'd need some more definitive proof. As I mentioned before, why hasn't somebody come forward? Where did this footage originally come from? So it's probably one of the best sightings to date, I would say, when you add in the factor like the kid, the running shoes, the backpack, and just Maura's all-around look. I will say that there are obvious resemblances there, but I am definitely not convinced that this is indeed Maura Murray. You would need more proof. So where is Maura Murray? Well, that is $1,000,000 question. I've come up with some options here that have split up into brackets. Now, okay, so she's either alive or she's not alive, right? Okay, now if she's alive, I believe we got two choices here. And that is that the first one, she ran away, okay? She doesn't have to be in Canada. She could be in another country, Australia, South Africa, Japan, Russia. I'm just saying, she might have run away to somewhere where nobody is expected. She could have run away to another part of the United States. She may have run away and started her life completely over again. Okay? That's, if she's alive, that's the one option. The second option, not a good option, but it is possible that she was taken that night, foul play has occurred, and she is still being held captive somewhere in somebody's basement. We all know the story about J.C. Dugard. She was held captive for about 18 years. Now, yes, she was a lot younger. She was like 11 years old when she was taken. And of course, Maura was a lot older. And she probably would have been able to, fight for herself a lot more. But still, this could happen. And so we're just looking at the possibilities. And this is a possibility. I just hope that the police did like thorough searches of like the whole township, like just knock on every door, check everybody's basements, sheds out the back. You know how this sort of stuff happens when people kidnap people. Just check homes thoroughly everywhere, because this sort of thing does happen. So if she's still alive, I believe we're looking at these two possibilities here. So if Maura is not alive anymore, if she is not with us on this earth, well, okay, straight up, foul play must have occurred that night. Something's gone wrong. Her life has been taken. She's maybe buried somewhere or something like that, and nobody might ever find her. Her belongings, cell phone, backpacks and stuff like that could have just been disposed of, and we may never ever know or ever find Maura Murray. And the other possibility, of course, is that night the elements took her. She was cold and freezing in the forest in the snow, and she just passed away that night, as some suspect that as well. So this is all just speculation, of course, but I am looking at these possibilities pretty strongly that it's pretty much one of these four things. Now, none of them are good, really. The only best situation there is that she has ran away and started a new life, and she's happy somewhere, and she's getting on with her life. Of course, many people don't think that is very likely because she was very close to her family. Her mother was sick, and she just wouldn't have done that. She wouldn't have left her mother like that, and she wouldn't have run away from her family and her friends. So a lot of people don't think that is too likely, which of course only leaves some pretty bad stuff. We got to look at these possibilities to try to figure out just what has happened, where we could look for her. But with so much time having gone past now since Maura's disappearance, with each year that goes by, the likelihood of her being found alive sadly just becomes less and less. There's always hope, of course, but we do have to look realistically at these possibilities. It is not a nice thing to have to look at or to discuss, and especially for her family as well. But I think realistically, I guess we are looking at least one of these situations. The big thing, of course, in this case is that there just has been no trace, no sign of Maura. Missing without a trace. No cell phone, no clothing items, no backpack. It's been so long since she's gone missing. The fact that there has just been no sign of her at all is telling, though, I think. But just what that means is anyone's guess, really. I hope, looking at all these situations here, that she has ran away and started a new life, because that's really the only good outcome that could be in this case. That she's alive and that she ran away and that she's living happily somewhere. Anything else is a dead end, is not good. So where is Maura Murray? Well, she has truly vanished without a trace. She is missing without one single trace, which unfortunately just leaves you with more questions and no answers. So as I release this video on February 9, 2019, it is the 15-year anniversary from when Maura went missing. Now, 15 years is a long time. Many people say the chances of her still being alive are slim to none, unfortunately. But there is always hope, even if it's just only hope that there can be an outcome in this case, and some answers for the family at least. But on this anniversary of Maura's disappearance, we not only remember Maura, but all the other missing people, not only in the United States, but around the world. There's a lot of tragic and sad things happening in the world where we live today. To go into detail into any of it would just make you sick. People who commit these heinous crimes should be locked away for life. Minimum. A lot of people will say there should be a lot more harsh punishment for them too. Children, young adults, fully grown adults. There's no barrier. You know, if someone wants to go and do harm to someone, you know, it seems in today's society, they'll just go and do it. And that's really sad. Nobody deserves to have their life taken just by some stranger, or to be kidnapped and have their whole life ruined. As I say, the atrocities that go on, especially with young children, it just makes you sick. People like this need to be stopped, needs to be policed a whole lot better, and things like this, of course, should never happen. But sadly, in this world, in this day and age, it does go on. But we can remember Maura today, 15 years today, and I think the only thing that we can hope for at this stage is to sometime have an outcome to this case. There is a possibility that there may never be an outcome to this case, but I think there's also a reasonably strong possibility that there could be an outcome too. And just what that outcome is, of course, is anybody's guess. It is a very open-ended case, a very puzzling case, like so many cases, just like this. They're all very puzzling. That she is somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's granddaughter. And so today, on the 15th anniversary, we remember Maura Murray. Now I'm gonna end the video on a bit of a lighter note. I wrote a song, put some music to some lyrics that Kurtis Murray, he is Maura Murray's brother, for those of you who didn't know. He wrote some lyrics on a clip on YouTube about Maura, so I thought if I put some music to that, it might go pretty well with it. And I've written a song, and it was pretty cool. If you guys follow the Missing Maura Murray podcast, I even got a shout out on there. I'll play a quick clip of it now.
And we got a cool email from Dude Man Productions, who wrote a song, or at least some music, to Kurtis Murray's lyrics to the song that he wrote, where he talks to Maggie Freeling on the disappearance of Maura Murray Oxygen Show. So I think that was really nice. We have to.
So that was pretty cool. And if you guys want to check out the song, I'll put it on the end screens of this video. So be sure to do that. And thanks heaps, guys, for tuning into the video, and we will catch you next time.